director, of course. Well, let me tell you what I think about the film. And also I've got questions to put to you because that's more important. I want to understand better what you're doing. You've just said that the story is a pretext for telling something through images. I think there's a contradiction. Throughout the film, there were images. The whole thing was to help us understand better why the goldsmith has this pathology, but irrespective of the fact that the reason why mustn't always be the yardstick for measuring a film. But at the end there's this narrator, and it seems to me that that is seeking to be an explanation. Perhaps I didn't get the right end of the stick, but I understood it in those terms. Well, the problem really, the crucial problem is that he feels that he's a victim as well. Just as she becomes a victim, there's no medicine for what he's got. There's no pills you can take to cure perversion. That's true for all kinds of diseases, pedophilia, and all kinds of other diseases. There's no pills you can just take like that. There's no why, there's no reason, there's no because. If we could work out why, then perhaps we could cure these kind of things better. But the idea, as far as I'm concerned, is something that not many people will grasp. It's a bit like a computer going off the rails. He starts to talk about gold and the weight of the gold. It's like a consciousness gradually slipping away. He starts to go off in a different direction. He starts talking about gold, about his father. It's a bit like in all those science fiction films when the computer is going wild. That was just something which was suggested so that at the end you're trying to give some kind of explanation or not? You're not, and I didn't quite see it that way. And as to the images and cinematography, I didn't quite grasp the scene where the two of them are on the boat in the lake in terms of your cinematographic choices, where their faces are all blurry. Well, of course, this is a director's choice, trying to present in visual terms the way in which the two of them are getting cut off from the real world. The real world remains in focus, but they look a bit like ghosts. That's one reading of this. But of course, you could also see this as being a kind of hallucination, as if she's starting to have a nightmare, a dream. In fact, the scene ends with her lying in bed staring into the distance. So it might be the idea of what's going on in her head. Straight after that, she has visions. She sees chicken where actually there's only onions, so she's starting to go slightly loopy. So I left this notion open as to whether it's a dream or whether there's this idea of them becoming detached from reality. Personally speaking, I prefer the idea that it's a dream, that it's her imagination. But I also liked the other idea as well. I like that idea of it being a dream, so that's why you move on to this image of her in bed. Microphone, please.
Alex Pinkstag de Fribourg en Suisse. J'aimerais vous poser la question.
Alex Pinkstag from Freiburg. I've got, in Switzerland, I'd like to put the following question. Yesterday, in a film we saw an actress who had to gain 15 kilos to play a role, and here we've got one who had to lose God knows how many kilos to act another role, and I wonder to what extent physically this is healthy, whether it's something that doesn't affect the body of an actor or actress. Generally speaking, doctors advise against this kind of thing, such drastic loss or gain of weight. So I wonder whether if in accepting this part you've given some thought to this problem, whether you had worries about this. And then, as to the screenplay, something that bothered me slightly. If there's a love story, as the object of one's desire fits in with what one expects of him or her, then one loves them more, feels more turned on by them. And in this film, that's not really the impression that I get. It seems to me that as she loses weight, he's just as hard with her as he was before when she's choosing the dress or when she wants to eat something. It seems to me that he is just hard on her. In essence, I didn't really feel that he was becoming more tender towards her as she gradually got closer to the target 40 kilos that he expected of her. And I think that this relationship isn't one that made him more creative either. He inherited the workshop from his father. His workers are trying to say to him, well, come on, take decisions, do something. But the result is that he ends up with nothing and he loses his workshop. I'll start. Let me reply on the physical side of things, losing weight. To be perfectly honest, I perhaps took this too lightly to start with. I'm very competitive in my character, and I like challenges very much. And I put this to myself as a challenge. I mean, they didn't put it in those terms, but I experienced it in that way. And as I'm a stubborn girl, I accepted the challenge, and I didn't really think it over too much at the outset. But you're quite right. It's not good if your weight goes up and down like this. I lost 15 kilos. The other actress you mentioned gained 15 kilos, and of course that does leave a mark on your body. Just an aside, by the way, what I think rapidly is the following. I mean, perhaps it's a cliche, but it's actually true. Nowadays, we all appear to be very close to our bodies, but we're not really. We're distant from our bodies, have trouble making love. We take care of our body in terms of its aesthetic. Look, we all want to have young bodies, bodies that don't have any history. But to be quite honest, the fact that my body has been through this kind of experience, the story is somewhere right inside my body, and I think that's something very important. It's an advantage because my body now has a story. The kind of bodies that we see in magazines are dead because they don't have any history. The most alive body in a sense is that of an old person because it has a history to it, and so I'm happy that my body bears the marks of this film. Vis-à-vis the film, the comments that you made, whether they're right or not, well, I was thinking of something a bit different, but that doesn't really matter so much. Your experience of it's also important. You want to know the idea I was getting at? Okay, fair enough. Well, he's hard right from the outset. That's part of his character. That's his way of being. And if you ask me, he's also very fragile. This tough outside conceals a fragile interior. In fact, I think he's even afraid. There's this, I mean, it's my interpretation. It would be different what I think about this than what the other scriptwriters thought. But this idea of losing weight has got something to do with trying to wipe out the person opposite you. So the more he loves her, or believes that he loves her, or pretends to love her, the more he wants to eliminate her, wipe her out.